All right, we are live. Hey, Lori, how are you? Good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Welcome to our chat at the Drive for Men's Health, and we should have this live on our website, and we also chronicle it afterwards. So, Lori, we're going to wait for the rest of the people to come. I sent them all links, so hopefully they're able to get on the Hangout. But we actually, hey, how are you, sir? Michael, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Welcome to our Hangout.
I actually figured it out.
That's awesome. You know what's interesting is while we're waiting for the rest to come, today we were talking with a plastic surgeon earlier today, and we were talking about when men, basically breast exams in men, and when men either gain some weight, they get breast exams or breast tissue, or where they lose the weight, they're still left with what we call man boobs. And then we got into a discussion briefly about breast cancer as well, and how the lumps or the enlargement can also be that. So it was pretty cool. We talked about this briefly, and now we get to talk to some of the experts in the field on this. So we're very excited here, my entire crew, to talk about this. So again, this is Dr. P,
Hello.
Jonathan, and then we have Ben, who manage our AV logistics and social media, and they're just hanging out with us back here. So, Michael, I don't know you. I don't think I've ever met you.
No.
You mind telling us about yourself?
Sure. I'm 58 years old. I am a breast cancer survivor. Actually went through it twice. I was initially diagnosed in 2007 and then had a recurrence in 2010. And I live with my partner, Tim, in upstate New York, and I am a retired elementary school teacher.
Nice. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're willing to share your story. And as I was talking to Lori a few days ago, I mean, I didn't know that much about breast cancer awareness until we started socializing on social media, and then I realized it's such a big problem, yet it's so under discussed in the community as well as the media. Hey, we got two new members here. Who are you guys? The man in the green.
Hi, I'm Oliver Bogler.
Hi, Oliver. You mind telling us who you are, where you're calling in from, and how why you have a passion for breast cancer awareness? I mean, yes, male breast cancer awareness.
Wait till you hear this one.
I'm calling you from Houston. I'm a survivor, and I'm not currently in my Tesla. I just parked it in the front of the house. So.
Oh, you have one? You have a Tesla? Which one?
Sure, yeah, I had it since September. So.
Oh wow! Which one do you have? We have the what is this, Model S?
Model S.
Yeah, the Model S. I have the littlest one, the little battery, but just for around town. I don't drive long distances. I drive to Austin occasionally. Good job on the Tesla.
We're driving 1,000 miles with this little battery, though.
Yeah.
If we have problems, we're gonna have to call you to get us out of any rump. So tell us the story, Oliver. Would love to hear it.
Yes, I'm a cancer biologist. I'm a professor at MD Anderson Cancer Center. I've been working my whole life in cancer, but not in breast. My research was in brain tumors. My diagnosis was in September 2012, about 5 years after my wife was diagnosed, also with breast cancer. So we like to do everything together. I'm a stage 3. I had the full ride of chemo. We do chemo at Anderson. We do chemo before the surgery. Then I had surgery and then radiation. I have a blog at malebreastcancerblog.org. I wrote about my journey originally. Now I mostly review new papers in the field, and I do some awareness work. I've also been working with the SCAR project, and I give talks and stuff like that. I've been to ASCO, social media, and things like that. And otherwise, I just do my day job, which is to work at the largest cancer center in the United States. And
wait, do you know Dr. Jesse Selber?
Sorry, who?
Jesse Selber. He's a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, sure, Jesse. Yeah, he's one of our plastic surgeons.
He's actually really good friends with my partner here.
We just had Jesse on 2 nights ago, right?
Yeah, he talked about the first scalp transplant and
the world's first scalp transplant.
That's so cool. What a small world, man.
Jesse's a good guy. He's not only a great surgeon, he's also an amazing artist.
Yes. Oh, really? What is? Oh, well, please do share so we can make fun of him later. What do you mean?
His bachelor was in fine arts, and he does amazing paintings. and sculpture. Every year we have a faculty art exhibit, and he brings art, and it's really amazing stuff. I mean, it's
our logo for the Ramsey Society. We're part of the Society for Robotic Microsurgery. He designed it. So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He's a very talented man.
Well, that's awesome, Oliver. Thank you so much for joining our chat, and I think we have Peggy here too. Peggy?
Yes, I am Brett's mom, who
Hi.
couldn't be here tonight because he's working a big swim meet. And Brett is 29-year-old, 5-year breast cancer survivor, and co-founder of the coalition with bringing Dr. Bogler and Michael Kavorik, who's on here, and Lori. We're all part of the same group that is trying to bring men together with breast cancer, so they know they're not alone.
So Peggy, do you mind sharing some statistics on male breast cancer, how common it is?
Well, let me get the numbers down. It's 450 will die this year from male breast cancer, and it's 1%, and anybody correct me, because you know me in figures, Lori, and Dr. Bogler. Tell me the exact numbers. It's like 1% of all breast cancers, I think.
Yeah, it's about 2,200 cases a year in the United States.
Wow.
Exactly.
And Oliver, do you mind sharing how yours was diagnosed? Because was it just on exam? Was it just a palpation? Or what exactly?
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty standard story. I felt a lump, and I ignored it for a few months and told myself all kinds of stories. And as I mentioned, my wife was a survivor, so I didn't really quite know how to broach the subject with her over breakfast. And then one day I actually wised up and went to a doctor and said, do you think I should have this looked at? And he said, sure. And then I went and had a mammogram and a biopsy and so on. So.
Wow. So, and then Oliver, Michael, do you mind sharing your story of how you were diagnosed?
Sure. At the end of 2006, I noticed a lump in my left side of my chest, and like Oliver, I ignored it for a while out of fear, and then finally they did a biopsy and it came back as breast cancer. And the second time in 2010. My oncologist noticed again something within the scar, so it was in the same area. The first time I did radiation, and then the first time they just put me on tamoxifen, and then the second time they put me on radiation and Lupron, and I had a really horrendous reaction to the Lupron, and I ended up making the decision to stop it, and kind of just went the holistic route at that point.
Yeah.
Hey Bob, how are you?
Oh,
Hi, how are you?
I just got Bob. Thank you.
Hey Bob, hey, thanks for joining us, man. Really quickly before I forget, Oliver and Michael, why do you think you ignored your symptoms? The whole reason we're driving 6,000 miles is to get guys to get to the doctors quicker and sooner. What, other than the fear of the unknown or fear of knowing what this is, what do you think, not just you guys, but men in general, why do men in general ignore their symptoms? Especially you, Oliver. I mean, your wife had it.
First of all, it's a rare disease, and so the probability is low. And then you kind of watch it. Mine was growing into the nipple, so it was a little bit painful. And if you look online, it's not supposed to be painful and all this kind of stuff. And it's just the improbability. And then literally, I just didn't know how to. I just couldn't believe that my wife. And I would have the same disease. I mean, it just seemed so improbable. So I just kind of, and it sometimes, some days it felt bigger, and some days it felt smaller, and all these kinds of things that you tell yourself. So if I was smarter, I would have gone 3 months earlier to the doctor and had it checked out a little earlier. But that was the sort of thought process, if you can call it that. And I think men, lack of awareness. I mean, I knew it was a possibility. I knew this kind of cancer existed. But I also knew that it was such a small chance that probably didn't help me a lot.
Hey, Bob, you mind sharing your story?
Sure. Sure. I started out with a small eraser tip-sized, or pea-sized, lump in my breast, just 12 o'clock position above my nipple. Talked to my doctor about it, and it was several years before I was actually diagnosed. And he said, well, you're a bigger guy, you got the man boob going on, it's probably gynecomastia, probably a little cyst or calcification. We'll keep an eye on it. And of course, I wasn't running to the doctor, every now and then unless I was sick, so I didn't follow up. Then when I got insurance again after being laid off and changing jobs and Cobra and all that nonsense, I finally went back to him for something else and said, oh, by the way, what about that lump? Now it's bigger, it hurts, and I knew it wasn't supposed to hurt, and I wasn't sure, and I had a lymph node under my arm about 2 weeks earlier that resolved itself, but it had blown up to be like the size of a ping pong ball. I knew that couldn't be good, and I was afraid. And I ended up being diagnosed in May 2012 with 3A breast cancer. Had 14 lymph nodes taken out, 7 were positive for cancer, and had a mastectomy with lymph node dissection, and 6 rounds of chemotherapy, ACNT, over 18 weeks. Every 3 weeks, and then I had 25 rounds of radiation. That was 3 years ago. So here I sit.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story. Now, anyone want to chime in on when you find this, when your physician or healthcare professional feels a lump? What's the next step? Is it an MRI? Is it CAT scans? Is it straight to surgery, biopsy? You guys mind sharing what it is? Because I know a lot of guys are probably like, "Oh my God, I do have a lump." And then they're going to poke me and prod me. Like, you might kind of run through what the general stuff is, not specific, just general.
I would say mammogram.
Yeah.
Mammogram. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Lori, why is it so important to advocate for something that only 400 people get affected by a year?
Because those people are someone's father, they're someone's brother, they're someone's son in Peggy's, situation. Those are lives. They're all real lives. And for me, it was my dad's first cousin's life. He was diagnosed. It was very late. He had metastatic cancer of unknown primary. It was later determined that it was breast cancer was his tumor origin. And if there's more knowledge out there, you can never say it enough. As far as I'm concerned, knowledge is power, and people need to be aware. And you guys know firsthand. How stubborn some men can be about their health, how ignorant men can be about their health. They care about so many other things, and yeah, it'll be fine, or I'm not going to pay attention to it. If you notice, there are 2 women on this phone call talking about men's health.
Yeah.
And, we all have to push the people we know and love, because every life matters, and it doesn't, the statistics, I have to say, as someone who's new in this space, I don't know how realistic some of these numbers are, because you wonder when statistics are being recorded as breast cancer, it just says breast cancer and probably assume that it's a woman. Well, it may not be. It could be a man. So how do we really know what these numbers are? And getting to know people like Bob and like Oliver on social media, and getting to interview Michael and getting to know Peggy and Brett, you see the passion in them and how alone people felt when they learned this news. And we just don't want families to have to go through that, because every life matters.
Yeah.
Question for you, though. I heard the number 400 thrown out there. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the 400 men that die every year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 450 is the number. But, for Brett, he was 17 years old with this lump. And every doctor for 7 years that looked at us told us it was calcium. He's becoming a man. And it wasn't until I kept pressing him to go back for a physical, because all my kids got health insurance. And this doctor, even in a man's physical, is the biggest nightmare. They don't get their breast checked, because doctors don't do it still to this day. So how in the hell does a man know that he can get breast cancer? And for 7 years we're told it was nothing, and then finally a doctor does something.
And one thing we're trying to do on this drive is getting guys to be advocates for themselves. And
Yes.
it's much easier to blame the system, but the system we're not going to be able to change. So
We can't.
how can we get guys to basically take the car, which is their body, and drive it in the right place? And if they have to do it with an assistant driver like their wife or their partner,
Right.
then let's do it. And that's what we're trying to encourage them. And we actually did a survey through Orlando Health where we surveyed 1,000 men and asked them 2 simple questions. One of the questions was, what was the make and model of your first car? And over 80% of men knew the make and model of their first car. Well,
Yes.
only half knew their last doctor's appointment. So we may be getting them into the office, but the other half we're not even getting them into the office.
Totally.
We're trying to teach people things that they can do at home, and I think the breast exam, just like the testicular exam, is very important. If you feel something, you should go get it checked out.
So we just shared a video. We shared 2 videos actually, just today and last week, of a man getting a mammogram and a man getting his breast examined. And full disclosure, the man is my dad.
Right.
Because my dad is BRCA2 positive, as is Michael, right? Michael, you're BRCA2 positive. Yes. Oliver, where are you in the? You don't have a BRCA mutation, right? And Bob?
I'm negative.
Yeah, and Brett's negative.
And Brett is negative. So that opens up a whole other conversation. But, again, the doctors were showing us how to do an exam on a man, a breast exam on a man. The doctor said she's a very well-known oncologist surgeon. She said she does an exam on a man the same way she does an exam on a woman. And explain that you need to know what normal feels like. And I encourage there's 4 of you in that car. When is
your breast?
When is the last time you checked your breast?
That's it. Check them. Brett's website is checkthem.org.
There you go.
And we did videos for the National Consortium of Breast Centers on how to do a breast exam on men.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, that's it. Check your boobs.
And you need to tell your primary care doctor that they, as part of your exam, you guys know this better than we do. They're sticking your, what kind of an exam are you getting for your prostate?
Ask for
breast, the doctor should be touching your breast, right, Bob?
Absolutely, and my doctor. I knew my doctor long before he was ever my doctor, and I really had a chip on my shoulder because he really missed the ball on it.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because, I wasn't going back to him with any, sniffle, and I lost track of how many years it was, but it was years in between that first indication that I had something going on to the time I was actually, oops, there's really something going on. And he, ran me down the street to the mammogram center. So.
I have a question about the genetics. You guys mentioned now, if you guys have sons or daughters, something that's recommended be getting these tests. How do males that are BRCA positive, they end up getting it? Is this something that is advocated, or is there not enough information about if your son gets with genetic testing?
Okay, I couldn't hear all that.
I think the question was about sons and daughters being tested with the BRCA, for the BRCA gene. It would be that if you're BRCA positive, then the children should probably be tested.
Yes.
And plus also the other members of the family, like in my oncologist encouraged. My dad had already passed away from prostate cancer, so my mom was tested, my sister, and my brother. And they all came out negative. But it was really important that they all got tested, for their children also.
Right, and I'll add that my BRCA2 mutation, so what happens is when I found out I was positive, I had to find out where it came from my mom or my dad, because it comes from my parents, and it came from my father. My father has a brother. His brother had a 50% chance of having the mutation. His brother had the mutation. My uncle had 2 children. One boy positive, one boy negative, one girl still tested. My family, my little brother's negative, my older brother just tested, and we'll learn his test results shortly. But this goes also to men's health. Men can carry a BRCA mutation too. And Oliver can probably speak to that better than I can, but that's another thing that people don't think about. Oh, it comes from the mother, it comes from the mother. No. In my family, it's all men except for me.
And guys, if you guys could please not watch the live stream at the same time you're on the Google Hangout, because we're getting feedback, and that's what was happening with Bob, so I kind of muted him, but you can unmute yourself if you guys want to continue the conversation. There was just a lot of feedback, so sorry about that, guys. All right, go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the so BRCA2 is more commonly associated with male breast cancer, but still the ratio is only about 10 to 12% of male breast cancers are BRCA2 associated or BRCA associated in general. So, but it is a risk factor, and clearly, if you have it, then you should, as was already said, check out your family and have them tested too. So,
Yeah, well,
I was going to make another comment, if I may, just for a moment, which is another reason to raise awareness, I think, is the fact that there really is not enough primary research on the male disease. There's a huge amount of research on breast cancer in general. In fact, breast cancer enjoys a privileged position in the National Cancer Institute's funding portfolio. But really, it's almost impossible to find good primary biology being done on the male's disease. There is now beginning to be some good clinical investigations. There's some registry trials and so on. But pretty much everything we know about male breast cancer and the way that men are treated is based entirely on knowledge of the disease in women. And very often, even clinical trials, only about a third of clinical trials for breast cancer will allow men to enroll. Even many cases where it makes perfect biological sense for them to be part of it, but it's not possible. So I think another part of raising awareness is putting some pressure on the system to try and improve the inclusion of men in breast cancer clinical trials, and to get the NCI and Komen and the other funders of breast cancer research to also devote maybe just 1% of the grant dollars towards good original research on male breast cancer.
All right, guys, we have a question on social media. What is the most common reason for a breast lump in a man? The most common reason for a breast lump in a man.
Well, I'm not a physician. I'm a PhD. I'm a basic scientist. But my understanding is that the most common reason is gynecomastia. So this is a hormonal dependent swelling in the breast tissue, and it's can be transitory and it's benign. But I would say that if you have a lump, that is, it's good to go and see a doctor and get it actually formally looked at so that a doctor can make the appropriate diagnosis. So.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, just if there's anything you want to put out, anything you want to say, any points, summary points, please, we'll start off with Bob.
I would just say that men need to get to their doctor, have a conversation about not only their family histories, but their risk factors for breast cancer, and just be aware of what they should be talking to their family doctor about. The doctors always check for swollen glands to the neck, to the collarbone, and they stop there. And they really do need to go beyond that. If they're not doing that, you need to ask them to do that.
Can I add to that too, if you don't mind? When Bob, you brought this up earlier, that you were a little peeved at your doctor, for not maybe paying attention closer to what you were going on. We're hearing so many stories in our documentary. That is the point of what we're trying to get across, is share stories from other men and their families. And the same thing at the coalition, at the Male Breast Cancer Coalition, we have all of these different people sharing their stories. There is a common denominator of being diagnosed with breast cancer. Some have the same symptoms, some do not. But there's one story that stood out to me also, a man who, for 4 years, retired professional athlete, and he would go for his checkups regularly, was in very good health, very good shape. And he had an inverted nipple for 4 years, and he went to the same doctor every year for his exam, and every year the doctor just sort of ignored it and poo-pooed it and didn't worry about it. And he went for his 5th year checkup, and his doctor was not in that day. There was another doctor who was seeing patients, and it was a woman, and she said, "Do you mind if I give you your exam?" He took his shirt off, and this is what he said to me, "Lori, the doctor's eyes rolled to the back of her head when she saw my nipple." She said, "Put your shirt back on." She wrote a note on a piece of paper, said, "I want you to take this and go to the emergency room." He went to the emergency room. 5 doctors came and touched him. They said, "You have breast cancer." He didn't run the test. They said, "You have breast cancer. Come back tomorrow. You're going to have surgery." He had the surgery. Of course, he had breast cancer. They said, "We'll let you know if you have a long life or a short life ahead of you." It took 4 years and a fresh face to diagnose this man, and these are the doctors that you're putting your hands on. Now, of course, I'm not saying every doctor is like this, but you need to be your own advocate. And if you notice something's wrong, he thought it was old age. In Brett's case, they were told, oh, it's puberty. You know, you guys have to be aware of your body and know when something is not right and be your own advocate.
Yep. Amen to that.
Oliver?
Well,
Michael?
yeah.
Any words?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I certainly agree with everything that's been said. I, already mentioned, I think the need for more research. I think that's an important part of the conversation. And I just want to thank you guys at Orlando Health there for doing this. I think it's an awesome initiative, and it's a great way to draw attention to, these kinds of issues. So I really appreciate you giving us a platform.
Thank you, and we've heard so much from this. Yes, go ahead. Michael, any parting words, Michael?
I think the most important thing that I've learned since dealing with this since 2007 has really been just having the conversation. It's situations like this. It's instances like the documentary. It's getting it out to men and letting them know that this is there, and that fear is going to be a natural part of your reaction, but that it's not a death sentence. And I think that's where a lot of people go right away when you hear the word cancer, and especially when a man hears he's got breast cancer, like, where is this coming from? But I think it's really just trying to get more and more conversations, not only us having it with our doctors, but us having it like in this venue or in other gatherings, and just for people to start getting comfortable with those words, male breast cancer. And I think that's kind of where I've kind of gone with it. It took me a long time to even be able to say those words. And if I was having trouble and I was a survivor, I can imagine what someone who's not going through this or may think they might have it, what they might be dealing with. So it's really just getting it to that point of being a comfortable topic.
I don't know how much more time we have, but I was just going to bring up. Pardon?
We have about 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, that's going to open up a can of worms. And Oliver, you guys all know about this too, is the way that the men are treated in terms of medications and surgery and all of that. They're being treated the same way that women are. The men are being given tamoxifen. They're having mastectomies. So the research is so important because everybody's just taking this one pile that has worked for everyone and applying it to the rest of the men who are not necessarily going to have the same reactions or the same results from the medications. That's why it's so important to have research dedicated. And Oliver shared something. I mean, Oliver, that study that you shared yesterday was really important too.
No, and I totally agree with you. And the only way we're going to get interest in research and get more education out there on the course of the exam is to get guys talking about it more. So I applaud everyone here for sharing their story. I know we all have busy schedules, and Lori, thank you so much for spearheading getting everyone together on this hangout. And I hope that next year we have so much awareness that we don't even need to talk about it. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but that's the goal, is to get guys motivated, to get their families motivated, get the entire community motivated for these diseases. It could be the big diseases like prostate cancer, it could be small diseases like breast cancer, but all these diseases are big when it comes to someone in your family, if you have it or not. So I want to thank you guys, and please continue to follow us, engage us, and it's amazing what we can do in social media. I just met you like 5 days ago, and we're already having a major talk on here at Google Hangout. So thank you so much, all of you guys, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we're going to keep diving here. We're going to talk about gastrointestinal health on the next topic. So watch this live. You guys are still interested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.